Joining me right now is former White House senior advisor Stephen Miller. He is the founder of America First Legal, a nonprofit organization that's helping state attorneys generals fight back against the Biden radical agenda. Stephen Miller, good morning to you. Thanks very much for joining us.
Good morning.
You heard what Governor DeSantis is doing, and there are similar lawsuits in Texas and in Arizona. Your reaction?
Yes, so the lawsuit being filed by Florida, along with Texas and Arizona, is the most important lawsuit that is happening in the country right now. And my organization, America First Legal, is helping several of the states that are involved in this litigation. And I want to be very clear with your audience about what is happening and why it is so dangerous. Under normal administrations, whether it was the Obama administration, the Trump administration, the Bush administration, the Clinton administration, if a criminal alien was arrested by a local sheriff's department, a police department, state troopers, state police, highway patrol, they were then flagged by ICE. Something called a detainer was issued. And when that person was released, whether they were bonded out by a judge, whether they were put on their own recognizance pending trial, or whether they completed the prison sentence, they were placed into ICE custody. This, number one, prevented them from absconding, and number two, once their criminal procedure was over, they would be sent home. The Biden administration has stopped doing that in the vast majority of cases. So all of those criminal offenders are now being released back into the U.S. population, back into your communities, back near your schools, back near the places where you live. The result of that is going to be massive amounts of recidivism. Innocent people are going to get hurt. Innocent people are going to get killed. Innocent people are going to suffer irreparable damage as a result of that decision. And if there's anything in the world that a judge should enjoin and say, no, this is illegal, it's that ICE directive.
Unbelievable. And at the same time, violence is breaking out across our country in big cities. It has to do, I'm not saying it's this, but it has to do with policy like cashless bail, which Kamala Harris said she wants to take throughout the country. I mean, look at the number of shootings and murders up in the double and triple digits.
Yeah, so what you're seeing right now is an attempt on the part of the left to change the conversation about violent crime. Let's be very clear. It's the war on cops, it's the war on ICE, it's the war on law enforcement that is causing there to be surging violent crime in America's major cities. Look at a case like Philadelphia. We have a far-left prosecutor. Homicides are surging. Violent criminals are being released. If you want to save thousands of lives in this country every single year, take the strategies and tactics that New York's Mayor Rudy Giuliani deployed in the 90s and apply those nationwide. Support our cops, long prison sentences, take violent offenders off the streets, and in the case of criminal illegal immigrants, send them home.
Yeah, but instead, what are we seeing? We're seeing the refugee cap be lifted, Stephen.
Yeah, so this is a national security issue. So one of the things that we did in the Trump administration was we said that in order to be able to ensure that those coming into our country don't present a security threat, we massively enhanced the screening of refugees. We reprioritized refugee screening to areas that have less terrorism concern. And then we also lowered the overall number of refugees. Biden caved to AOC, and now we're going to have a very serious potential threat to national security.
We went to the break talking about the cap on refugees, and the Trump administration put that cap in place. Initially, I thought the Biden administration was going to keep it there, and then suddenly they changed course entirely.
Yeah, in a matter of just a few hours. This is one of the most remarkable things that has happened really since Joe Biden has come into office. So Joe Biden's press secretary announced that they were going to keep the Trump refugee ceiling in place for the remainder of the fiscal year. And when some of their radical left supporters came out and said, no, you can't do this, you can't do anything, even no matter how basic, no matter how commonsensical, that Trump did, within the span of maybe an hour or two, they immediately folded. Joe Biden, the president of the United States, caved in the space of minutes to far-left voices like Representative Ocasio-Cortez and said they were going to raise the refugee ceiling. Now, we talked about the national security dimension, but this is also in the middle of the worst border crisis in U.S. history. Refugee resettlement is inordinately expensive. So when communities are already paying the cost of resettling record numbers of unaccompanied minors coming illegally, when they're already paying the cost of resettling illegal families, now they're also going to pay the resettlement costs for flying refugees from 10,000 miles away into U.S. communities.
It's unbelievable. And it's more expensive with refugees because they're getting all of the
Correct.
things that the U.S. gives, like food stamps, like free housing, free
People
education.
Don't understand
Is that
this.
right?
Yeah, so in federal law, if you're brought to the United States as a refugee, all federal restrictions on access to welfare are waived. So you get Medicaid, you get food stamps, you get public housing, and you get cash benefits. People don't know this. And so when you raise the refugee ceiling, you're taking cash directly out of the pockets of hardworking Americans during a pandemic when the middle class has already been hit so hard by these closures.
I want to switch gears, Stephen, and I want to ask you about the cancel culture and what we heard from the Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas in terms of technology companies. These social media companies have become more dominant and powerful than anyone expected. And you think that the answer is clear at this point once Republicans get back in charge?
Correct. So we've been looking as conservatives for what is the point of agreement, what is the common path that we can all take to rein in the excessive power of big tech, especially with respect to censorship. Justice Thomas, in his opinion, has laid out that path for all of us, what we should all be talking about and campaigning on. And that is to regulate big tech as a common carrier, also known as a public utility, just like a telephone company can't discriminate against you because of your viewpoints. Neither should dominant social media companies that have taken the place of telephone companies. Regulations have to catch up with the 21st century. We're still regulating telephone companies as though hardline telephones were the way most Americans keep in touch. Look at the pandemic. People are communicating on Twitter. They're communicating on Facebook. They're communicating on Instagram. We need to modernize regulations to say that those social media entities are public utilities for general use, and they cannot discriminate against Americans based on their religion, based on their political views, based on what they believe. That is a fundamental reform that we should campaign on, and the moment we have the chance, pass it into law.
Yeah, will Republicans have the chance? That's the whole point of H.R. 1, Nancy Pelosi wanting to put this bill through so that Democrats are in charge forever or for certainly decades. Your thoughts on election integrity and that Democrat H.R. 1 bill?
It's a real sign of a threat to the health of our democracy. So in a healthy democracy, when a party comes into power, as the Democrats have now, they want to focus on issues, right? They want to focus on doing things to make life better for people and then have a debate about it. When democracy faces risk, when democracy is imperiled, what you see happening instead is the party in power tries to change the rules of the game structurally to stay in power. That is a very dangerous path to go down. That's what H.R. 1 is all about. H.R. 1 is saying, now that we're in power, let's fundamentally change the rules of how elections are conducted to stay in power, using the rules to their own permanent structural advantage. That's a very scary thing. And so if you care about democracy, you should all say with one voice, no, it is the right of every state in this union to set their own election rules as desired by their own citizens to protect the security and integrity of their own elections. That's fundamental. That is basic to our constitutional order.
It's all quite extraordinary, Stephen. It's great to get your insights as always. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.